Welcome to Just Start, Get Visible, your go-to resource of the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you. Hey there. Welcome back to yet another episode of Just Start, Get Visible. I'm Jacqueline M, and of course, I'll be your host today. Over the past several weeks throughout this entire month, we've been exploring what it means to find your voice through the lens of conversation with Kat Calvin, back on episode number 267. And that's how we roll every month. At the top of every month, I have a conversation with someone, a meaty conversation. And then I spend the rest of our episodes really diving deep into it so that you can take some actionable things away from it. In our conversation together, we talked about rejection. We've talked about community. Yay. And today I want to talk about something that I believe makes both of those conversations possible and many other things possible in our lives, and that's values. Because finding your voice, it isn't just about speaking or presenting or just being overly visible. It's about knowing what you're willing to actually speak up for. Because a lot of us want to get visible in a way that feels right for us, but we're like, Jacqueline, what do I say? What do I do? What do I stand on? What do I fall back on? It's all about understanding what anchors you when the pressure builds up. When you feel like I have all these choices, all these options to make, how do I go about making the choices and making the options? Like, what are my things rooted in? And here's what I've learned. Life becomes much less confusing when your values become your compass. Okay, that's worth saying again. Life becomes a lot less confusing when your values become your compass. You have something to fall back on. You have a North Star. You have a reason why you're doing what you're doing. And it's not because decisions are easier. Like, decisions are hard. Many decisions in our life are hard, but it's because things become clearer. And I want to provide a clarity opportunity for you by digging deep into letting your values make the decisions. Okay, so let's get all the way into it. Of course, we have a couple sections today because I like to guide you through the conversation. And so we're going to take a stop in several sections today to make sure you have something tangible and meaningful to take away. The first thing I want to remind you of is everyone has access to values, but not everyone, maybe even you, are using them. I really do think that one of the most overlooked leadership tools, because you are a leader despite your role, position, status, or title, one of the most overlooked leadership tools is values. Because most people can tell you that they value integrity, right? They value family, they value excellence, they value service, they value honesty, they value growth. But here's the question, like, do your decisions actually reflect those values? And it's a quick litmus test that you can make to say, oh, I value X. Well, when's the last time that you did X that would help you to achieve or actually check the box on these values that you say are so incredibly important? Because values aren't proven by what we say. They're revealed by what we choose, the decisions that we make, how we spend our time, who we spend our time with, what opportunities we accept, what opportunities we decline. How do we respond under pressure, right? Under those anxious thoughts and feelings and decisions. How we treat people, how we lead, how we speak, where we show up at. Those decisions all tell a story. But the question is, are they telling a story that is reflective of your values, or are your values just these fleeting things that you're throwing out that are supposed to direct and guide, but really aren't? It says in our mission statement, right? It's not our LinkedIn profile. It's not our bio. Is our decisions, not the things that we're putting out there for performative reasons, but our decisions. And that's why values matter. Because when you know your values, you don't have to reinvent yourself over and over and over again. Like every time life presents a new choice, instead, you're able to go back to your values and say, you know what, I don't need to reinvent myself. Instead, maybe I need to realign to my values. As I go into section 2, I want you to think about some trends, some hot trends that exist out in the world. Could be fashion trends, could be social trends, content trends. We live in a world that moves quickly. And because it moves so quickly, trends change. Let's be honest, algorithms change. I was looking at a post I made the other day and I was like, that was a good post. It was meaty. I thought about it, etc. And guess what? I don't even know if anybody was checking for that, right? At least that's what the algorithm has convinced me to believe. And so trends change, right? Leadership advice changes. Industries evolve. An industry that you're in right now might be evolving. Opinions shift overall. What's celebrated today could easily be criticized tomorrow. If your decisions are built on trends, you'll be constantly feeling like you're chasing something. But your values don't fluctuate with public opinion, they provide stability. So I want you to think about it this way. When you know your values, you don't have to ask yourself, what is everybody else doing? Instead, you ask yourself, does this align with what matters most to me? And that's a very, very different question. And it's one that creates a level of confidence that you're moving the way that you should be moving, operating the way that you should be operating. Confidence builds trust. It is an opportunity for you to trust your foundation overall. Now, values make hard decisions easier. They should. Because if you're thinking, oh my gosh, should I do this? Should I do this? One quick way to quickly vet, is it possible for me to make this decision a lot easier, is to ask yourself, does it align with my values? One of the greatest gifts that values give us is clarity. Not comfort per se, right? I'm not saying that it's easier, but it gives us clarity. And sometimes we think that difficult decisions are difficult because we don't know what to do. Often they're difficult because we already know what the answer is. We almost have that gut feeling. We just don't like it. Maybe you know you need to leave a role. Maybe you know it's time to say no. Maybe you know that a partnership no longer fits in your life. Maybe you know that you've overcommitted. Maybe you know that you're compromising something important, something that you know is important to you. Values don't remove emotion, right? Because we're humans and we have emotion, but they help cut through the confusion, the fray, right? The nuances of life overall. Because when you are clear, crystal clear about what matters the most, many decisions begin to make themselves. And a lot of times they've already made themselves. You know what to do. So instead of asking, what will people think? You ask yourself, like, what aligns with my values? And that's a much healthier place to lead from, or to start from, or to pivot to, right? What aligns with my values? I want to be honest with you in saying that, and going back to what I said just a second ago around emotion, right? This doesn't take away emotions. Fear sounds different than conviction. All right. Fear can sound a lot different than conviction. And let me talk a little bit deeper about that as I dig into section number 4. Here's something that I have absolutely noticed over time. Fear and conviction can be loud, really loud, overwhelmingly loud, but they sound different. Okay. Fear says, what if they don't like me? What if I disappoint someone? What if I miss an opportunity? What if they choose someone else? And conviction says, this is who I am. This is what I believe. This is how I choose to lead. I can disagree respectfully. I could say no. I can protect what matters. One is driven by approval, by outside forces that might not align with your values overall, and the other is driven by alignment. Now, this doesn't mean that conviction eliminates fear, right? Not at all. It means values become stronger than fear, which is much more important because we are humans and we're going to experience fear. And that's what allows us to stay consistent. Leaders, starters, entrepreneurs, people who are looking to evolve and get more visible in a way that feels right for them. And it's not because they're necessarily fearless, but because they know what they're standing on, which is hopefully the foundation of your values. Values create consistent leadership because you're having something to go back to. One of the things I admire most about leaders like Kat Calvin and lots of leaders that we've had on the Just Start Get Visible conversation and podcast opportunity is not perfection. It's never perfection that many of them are going after, but a level of consistency, right? People know what they stand for. People know what matters to them. People know what guides their work, the kind of leadership that creates trust. Because people don't have to wonder which version of you they're going to meet today. Like, your circumstances might change, your strategy might evolve, your goals might get bigger and expand, but your values remain, right? Your foundation remains overall. And that's incredibly powerful, especially when you're starting, especially in leadership. People are looking for folks to be around who are anchored, not rigid, but anchored, right? They know what they stand on, which is usually values. People can adapt without abandoning themselves. People who can evolve without losing their integrity. That's what makes values so incredibly possible and what makes them so incredibly powerful. So I want you in our section number 6 to let your values make the decision. I want to challenge you. I want to challenge you to stop making every decision from scratch. Instead, I want you to let your values decide first. Imagine someone offers you an opportunity. Before thinking about the money, before thinking about the prestige, which I know sometimes is hard, right? Because it's like, but I need the money. And I get it. Like, we've built this society where money is at the core of a lot of things that we do. But even before we say yes to things that might feel like, oh my God, this is going to change my life, just stop and have a values check in, right? Before thinking about the prestige or the money, before thinking about what will everybody else say, just ask yourself, like, does this align with my values? Does this move me toward the kind of person, leader, starter that I truly want to become? Will I be proud of this decision a year from now? Will this strengthen my integrity or will it erode it? If the answer is yes, I want you to move forward with confidence. If the answer is no, I want you to trust yourself enough to either walk away or determine, can some modifications be made here that ultimately align with my values? Because one of the greatest freedoms in life, and I've learned this because I'm very clear and consistent with my values, but one of the greatest freedoms in life is realizing that you don't have to say yes to everything, even every visibility opportunity. You only have to say yes to what aligns. It's an option for you to say yes to what aligns or see if adjustments can be made so that it does align with you and your values. Before we close, I want to leave you with just a few questions to consider, right? What are your three non-negotiable valuables? The things that are just like, yeah, you know what? If I don't agree with these, if these don't align and I start to go against them, like I'm questioning my character, right? I don't want you to pick what sounds impressive. I want you to pick what actually guides your life. Three non-negotiable valuables, not something that you just saw on a board in your place of work or on some inspirational, board or vision board opportunity. Like, what actually guides your life for real? For me, I know my five values because I live them and I try to, as much as possible, to anchor my decisions and even my actions to them throughout the week. Freedom, love, making a difference, reciprocity, and security. Those are my values. And I'm constantly mapping, like, what are the things that I'm doing today, this week, this quarter, this month that lets me check the box on my values because those values make me feel good. I also want you to ask yourself what recent decisions actually reflected those values. This is a quick report card. Like, okay, I said that these are my values, but are you actually living them? What recent decisions ignored them, right? Those answers will tell you more about your overall self, how you're operating, how you're moving than almost anything else. Because values aren't theoretical, they're actually practical. They show up in our calendars, in our conversations, in our commitments, our boundaries, and also in our courage, the things that we're willing to go after and stretch to, even when we know that it's uncomfortable, right? Or hard. They are a reflection of if we're really showing up in alignment with what we say our values are. As we wrap up today's episode and this entire series inspired by my conversation with Kat Calvin, I hope you'll remember this, okay? Your voice matters, but your voice becomes even more powerful when it's rooted in your values because values give your voice direction versus just showing up any and everywhere. They give your opportunities, your leadership, your starting journey, they give it consistency. They give your decisions clarity. And they give you the confidence to keep showing up even when circumstances change, and circumstances will change. You do not have to follow every trend. You do not have to respond to every opinion. You do not have to let everyone decide who you become or who you will become. Let your values make the decisions. And trust, please, that the right opportunities, relationships, and communities will follow, and you'll still feel good about sleeping at night. I want to thank you for yet another opportunity to be here, to be in your inbox, to be in your ether, and to listen to the tips, tools, and storytelling here on Just Start Get Visible. If this episode resonates with you, share it with somebody. If you know there's somebody struggling with the decision that they need to make, maybe they can use values as their guide. Sometimes all we need is just a quick reminder that our values already know the way. Until next time, I want you to keep starting. I want you to give yourself permission to get visible in a way that feels right for you. I hope that wherever you're at, you're safe, healthy, and well. And of course, I'll see you for the very next episode. All right. You take care of yourself, and I'll see you again soon. Ciao. Welcome to Just Start, Get Visible, your go-to resource of the journey to becoming more visible in a way that feels right for you.